Hello, and welcome to Friends, Loves, and Life. I'm David Begor. My guest today is my husband, Derek Lenington. We've shared nearly 2 decades together through love, parenting, big moves, hard choices, and a whole lot of laughs. In this episode, we sit down not just as partners, but as people who have grown alongside of each other. We talk about how we met and what it's like to raise a child as a gay couple and what commitment looks like with shared intention. It's a conversation filled with honesty and reflection on who we are and where we've been. This one's close to my heart. I hope you find something in it that resonates with yours. Here's my conversation with Derek.
Yay!
Hi, Derek.
Hello, David.
All right. So one of the things I want to do with this is I want to talk about, since I'm introducing someone who's been a part of my life, that how did we meet?
Like the past tense nature of that, David.
Well, come see, come saw. Do you remember how we met? Do you remember how we met?
Yes.
Well, maybe you should tell me. Yes. How romantic.
Oh, you want me to explain it, do you? Yes.
Well, I remember how we met.
Well, yes, I remember how we met. We met at the gym. We were at the gym at the same time. And I'm imagining you want more of a story than that. So,
well, I know you were working out with a trainer. I can't remember his name.
Chris. Or
That's right.
Some people knew him as Zach.
What was his last name?
I'm spacing on it right now. I can think of his porn last name.
Yeah, that's what I meant. His Zach's last name.
Spears.
Zach Spears. Shout out to Zach Spears.
Chris Scara. I want to say Scaramucci, and that's not right. I can't believe I forgot. Sorry, Chris. I'll think of it. But yep. Yeah. And there you were, working out toward the front of the gym. You were seated on some equipment. Can't remember what.
Well, I know we made a lot of eye contact.
We did, and I remember Chris saying something to me, and I remember me not wanting Chris to have noticed what he had already noticed and was ribbing me about it. And so what I can't remember, though, is if we happened to walk close enough to you that you could make a comment, or if I intentionally walked over there. Do you remember?
Are you referring to the comment I made that broke the ice between us?
Yes. Yeah. Where I could get within earshot for you to say, nice ass. Quite the romantic you are.
It's all in the heart.
Yeah. Apparently not quite all in the heart. But I don't remember.
No, I think you were walking over to the stretching area, and I was either there or I was somewhere near there.
Yeah.
And that was hi, my name's David. Instead of that, I was like, nice ass. Do you remember what you said back to me?
No.
You don't?
No.
All right, this interview's over. You said nice everything. And I was like, oh, go on.
Did I really? That was a pretty good recovery.
Yeah, you did it quite quickly too, if I remember that correctly.
I'm sure I must have been flustered. So
I don't know if you were flustered. You didn't come off as flustered. If that, that was almost 20 years ago. So
true. But yeah, well,
actually,
good
it was
on
probably
me.
20 years ago around this time, right? Leo's turning 20, and it was just before his first birthday.
Yeah, that would be right. Yeah.
And look at us now. Wow.
No. I just was thinking about that. I mean, 20 years. That is an amazingly fast 20 years.
Yeah,
right?
it did go fast, didn't it?
Yeah.
It was pretty wonderful, though. It was pretty wonderful.
Again, past tense.
It was good time, Derek. It was good time. One of the things I wanted to ask you about, because when you and I got together, you had already been a dad. Always kind of wondered, I don't think we've ever really talked about this. Since you had already raised a son, did you have any hesitation about getting involved with someone who had a kid?
No, no. In fact, to me, that was a plus because I felt like there was something I was more likely to be able to offer up some experience based um, perspective, and that
Hmm.
I knew what I would be kind of getting into, at least in the big picture. So, no, that was not a concern at all.
Well,
It was, to me, it was also an indicator of your character. I thought that was pretty amazing. And that really drew me to you.
oh, well, is that the real answer, or are you just?
Well, I have let me turn the page and see if there's a second. Yes,
uh,
that's the real answer.
well,
Yes.
I've always, I guess I've always I'm not really sure, because when we met. I'm making air quotes. We met,
Hmm. Hmm.
and then I don't think we spoke or even saw each other again for a few months.
More than a few months. Yes, I think that was very intentional, as I recall, because we were in different spaces. I, in particular, was in the process of disengaging, right?
Right.
So that relationship had officially announced its ending, but it was still in the process of unwinding. And I was, yeah, just not in a space that I felt like I could continue for at least some period of time while I let things settle a little bit. So,
Mm.
yeah. Yeah. So I think it was at least 6 months, I think.
Yeah, I think got we really got together around September, I think,
Yeah. I think that's right.
of that year,
Hmm.
2006.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because you had already been a dad, were you concerned about going through the same things you went through before with your first child with another child?
About going through some of it a second time, if you will. No.
Actually, what my question is more about, did you have concerns about Colin being upset that you were raising another child that you would be with full time
Hmm.
versus what he was able to have as he was growing up?
Yes, I did have some concerns about that. So he was getting to the point where he was going to college. It was going to be college. So partly I was thinking that that would be not so much of an issue because he was already going to be more or less not around, and that
Mm.
in some sense was a conclusion, kind of a ending of one parenting phase and the beginning of another less intensive parenting phase. So this didn't feel like a conflict in that sense. I definitely had concerns about how I would manage being a parent to both, but there was such, there is
Yeah.
such a tremendous age gap. I mean, it's almost 20 years.
Yeah, it's like 18 or 20
Yeah.
years.
Yeah. So that gave me some comfort that that would be, as a result, be a little less. And you're right, we haven't talked about this in detail, really, or I haven't mentioned. I also, at that time, especially, was still very aware that I had not been a full time parent particularly those last 5 to 7 years. And that was frustrating and disappointing to me. And this felt a little bit like an opportunity to do something different when certain situations came up. Again, really naive, because of course I knew what people said. Hearing it and experiencing it are very different. In terms of having one parenting experience with one child does not mean you are going to fully or even potentially remotely get the personality and challenges of the next child.
Yeah, that's right. I get
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
That's why I don't want another child.
Well, at this point, we'd be what, 104 before we.
Before they graduate.
Yeah. Is that what you were thinking about?
Yeah, I mean, I've always sort of wondered, and I'm kind of surprised we never really talked about it, but I guess we either just didn't make the time or just didn't come up. I
Well,
mean, I've always,
we dove in. I mean,
we did. But I always kind of wondered also from Colin's perspective, and someday I'd like to have him on here and maybe talk to him about it. What was, because I know that from you
mm-hmm,
that he did not get along with your previous husband
mm-hmm,
partner. Um, and I do believe that he was somewhat cautious at first
mm-hmm.
with me, which was understandable. But I always just kind of wondered what he thought about you being in this other family, raising this kid.
Yeah.
Did he ever talk to you about that?
No, I've not asked the question. I've gotten not hints, well, undercurrent, somewhat from his mom as to
Mm.
some of the challenges that our relationship with you having a 1 year old or 1.5 year old at the time, but um, never had that full on conversation. And my sense is that it was hard for him in some ways, and he also was that at that point in life where he was very focused on a lot of other things too.
Well, yeah, he was turning into an adult, right?
Yeah,
Going to
he was
college.
becoming a freshman at a school that was 2,000 miles away, and so there were just a lot of things happening in his life too. Yeah,
He's a good kid.
yeah,
He's a good
absolutely,
guy. Yeah.
absolutely, yeah. And you're right. I mean, he also, I think, as much as anything, was vibing off of the relationship dynamics of the previous relationship I was in, that was much more toxic than I was able to see when I was in the thick of it. Toxic for him, and toxic really for uh, just creating any sort of a true family dynamic. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, when we're in it, it's
Yeah.
hard
Right.
to see that,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Um, yeah, I mean, I get that. I was, as I've told you before uh, there were a few toxic relationships that I never should have been in. But then you came along
Yeah.
and just charmed your way into my heart.
Me and my cute little ass. Yeah.
It's too funny.
Yeah.
Um, well, now that you have been on this journey with me for the last 20 years, is there anything, looking back, do you think there's anything that you would have said, you know what, we should have done that differently?
Oh, are we going to have a regret conversation? Is that what this
No,
is?
it doesn't have to be not like full on regrets, because I don't truly believe in full on regrets, because you can't change stuff that's happened.
Yeah.
But I think there are things that you can look at and go, oh, maybe I would have done that differently, and how can I apply that now? Like, oh,
Right.
okay.
Absolutely. From that perspective, if I could rewind the tape, I would have I found a way to dig in yet one more time to try and make Portland work.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah. I mean, I think we both feel that.
mhm.
But can you hear Lily? She's snoring.
Yeah.
Yeah, Portland was, in some ways, it was kind of magical, right? It was,
Yes.
you know, it was the house, the white picket fence, the everything was kind of perfect,
Yeah. It,
except the winters were really difficult.
it was more than just the weather. I'm realizing the weather was absolutely a huge part of it, but I also was struggling with as a sole business owner, solopreneur, um, struggling. I wasn't sure how to make it work better. The issue that came up with my state certification, that was really no more than a slap on the wrist, had the impact of like totally pulling the rug out from underneath me. And I don't know that I ever quite recovered from that. And then it was just financially difficult at the same time. And then when the opportunity arose to potentially do something that would get us back to California when we were really feeling like we were missing California, I wish we could have kind of hit the pause button and tried to think of a way to test out that before just going all in. But
Yeah,
uh,
yeah, I hear you, but I don't think that was a mistake. We almost had moved or
yes,
put the house up for
yeah,
sale.
to the Bay
So
Area, right?
so we gave it another year. It's not like we just gave
That's
up.
very true.
We
That's
did
very
give
true.
it another year. As much as we loved Portland, the vibe, the
Hmm.
people, everything,
Hmm.
it never, as much as we loved the house, we loved the neighborhood, we loved the city, it never felt like home like it did, you know. I don't know, maybe I'm speaking for myself, but just being in California, even just living in Templeton, felt home.
Yes, I do recall very vividly the experience we both had individually and together of every time we got off a flight from Portland into Oakland, we'd be like, oh, the quality of the sunlight, the
Yeah,
air,
everything
yeah,
was just different. And we
yeah.
felt that enough that I think that was also our driving force.
Hmm.
And, we may not have recognized it at the time, but I think that was the driving force behind us finally saying, okay. Because even when we made that awful drive down with poor Taylor in the back seat and Leo, and
Yeah,
we had no air conditioning. The windows were all
yeah,
open.
yeah, yeah,
Driving through Templeton to the ranch, we were like, yeah, this feels right.
yeah. Yes, I
Um,
agree. I totally agree. And so I think to go back and answer the question a second time, I don't know that I would do things. I mean, it probably would have turned out the same.
sure.
So that isn't meant to, I didn't mean to answer in a way that I would do it. I wished it would turn out differently. I guess I'm thinking, had there been a little more of a gap, maybe we wouldn't have ended up in Templeton. Maybe we would have made a different choice and ended up still moving locally, but maybe having ended up in San Luis Obispo. Or maybe the idea would have been we would get closer so I could help take care of my dad, but maybe we would have moved directly to Palm Springs. I mean, that kind of thing, but we didn't think about that. We were more about leaving Portland than what was next. But I know why. It's because
Right.
where we were headed to felt so low risk because of the situation we were moving into.
Right.
So yeah, which of course was anything but we didn't know. So
Right. And then when we moved to the house in Paso Robles is the moment I think we should have taken the time to think,
yeah,
do we really want to stay here?
right. I mean,
Um,
our heart was in the right place in thinking about Leo and school,
yeah.
and yeah, agree, completely agree.
One of the other things that I wanted to ask you about, and if you don't want to talk about this on the podcast, that's fine. But you and I are in a monogamous relationship, and we never have had a "we are going to be monogamous" conversation. It just worked out that way. And I'm wondering if you want to talk about what that means for you.
What means being having the relationship that we do?
Yeah, having the relationship we do, the way that it evolved. Um, and we don't, again, we don't have to talk about that. We can talk about something
Yeah.
else if you want. Um,
Yeah. So I recall us at one point having some sort of a conversation about it early on, and both having a kind of coming to the point of agreeing that we had both experienced more open, casual relationships, and we were interested in trying something different.
we had that conversation. I don't remember that at all.
Mm.
Was it like when we first met, like
Yeah,
around that time? Oh,
early on, fairly early on. But I don't think after that we talked about it again.
was it important for you to be in a monogamous relationship? Is that what you were always like in relationships in general? Is that what you always like wanted to be in?
So I didn't have language for that for a long time. I mean, this kind of goes off into the deep end of a dark and murky and poorly kept pool called kind of knowing oneself kind of thing.
Mm.
I felt really betrayed in previous relationship, because there wasn't a discussion and the agreement was worthless. There was just deceit and
Mm.
secrets, right? So that was kind of still very fresh and top of mind, and I knew that made me feel very insecure. So, and my insecurity around just sex in general left me in kind of a vulnerable position. I had a hard time talking, giving voice to kind of what was important and what was not. And I felt like I had once again gotten the short end of the stick. Ooh, goodness. Do you charge by the hour, or can we do what is this here by I go into my therapy here? So at the time, early in our relationship, that was very important to me. As it has served me to just make it all about me for a moment, really well, in that it has allowed me to feel just kind of come into my own in ways that I don't think I would have across all aspects of our relationship. Had I not felt that confidence that that was something I could count on being the way we were
Mm-hmm.
together, and that agreement.
So in a way, it was like it wasn't another battle you were fighting, another internal battle that you were fighting.
Right, right. And over time we all come to understand ourselves a little. Well, I hope people do. I try to, maintain curiosity and a kind of a growth approach. And for me, there has been, my entire what you and I were talking not that long ago. It was some quote I think we both remarked on, or maybe I made this up and I just remarked on it personally. Um, no, both of us. And I think you even referenced it at some point in a podcast that in for people who are queer, we are always in the process of coming out.
Oh yes, Um,
Yeah.
it's a somebody had made a video about it
Yes.
and about how we're always
Right.
learning about ourselves
Yeah.
and we're never fully out because we're discovering something new constantly because of the way society pushes at us.
Yes, there's a cultural component. For me, there was a huge family component. I had, the internalized homophobia that so many of us have as a kid
Hmm.
growing up. I had some fairly, early childhood under 10 experiences that were just confirmed for me the need to keep this aspect of me under wraps and hidden away. And so that had kind of morphed into more of an insecurity about me being attractive to anyone of the same sex, and
Hmm.
also me being ever having the opportunity to have a quote unquote real family. And so that got bound up in this idea that my relationship, committed relationship, needed to be a particular way. And the model that most of us had, certainly at you know me growing up, which was a few years ago, um, it was a heterosexual relationship that I assumed was one man, one woman, and that was it. And that's all that the relationship included. So over time, I've definitely seen a lot of other things and understand other versions and relationships that seem to work as well, maybe better
Hmm.
for some people, absolutely better. And I think I went through a phase, don't know when, of okay, what does that mean for me and for us? Um, but just because something works for somebody doesn't mean what the relationship agreement, understanding that we have can't work for us. So, how's that for
Right.
barely answering the question, but wandering around in a lot of different places?
Yeah, I get what you're saying, because our generation, our role models were heterosexual couples. Our parents, for one, the closest. And I
Mm-hmm.
think you and I mean, me up until I was 19, our parents were together. They,
Mm-hmm.
and yours were still together up until your
Till
mom
they died.
passed away. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so those were our role models. Um, but oddly, those role models weren't happy
Right.
role models.
I completely agree. And
Yeah.
at the same time, particularly, well, I don't want to say particularly because that isn't fair. I'm not sure for you. For me, my two best friends from college um, are dead from AIDS. My bestest buddies when in LA when I first came out are all dead. My first gay romantic relationship, uh, he died. So I think I got at some level this idea that, wow, you have an open relationship of any sort and you're dead. I, literally. So
That's not
um,
how it works, but
no, I know, but
yeah, right.
that there's that, that part of you that kind of internalizes things or looks for support of a view that already maybe you're holding, and
Sure.
so I didn't explore it. I didn't investigate that. It just was kind of an undercurrent that I hadn't really put a harsh light on and tried to understand.
Well, I think there's that thing too where, as gay people, yeah, this was part of that quote. Gosh, I wish I could remember the words, but it's something about coming out later in life. We experience our
Mm-hmm.
teenage years
Mm-hmm.
at a much older age
Yeah.
because that's when we experience dating and relationships.
Mm-hmm.
And because we're also adults, it gets a little messed up in how we approach these things.
Mm-hmm.
And we all then learn to navigate relationships much differently than heterosexual couples.
Yep. My takeaway from my experiences or lack thereof, and coming from a heterosexual marriage, was be afraid, be careful of a same sex relationship because it looks like they're dangerous. And so I think part of me going all the way back to the question was, well, if we can be monogamous and be at least fit the traditional heterosexual model that way, at least I got that.
Yeah, I get that. Um, yeah, it's interesting because
Yeah, I
when
mean, what
I
about you?
was, what about me, Derek? No, when I was young, I, especially when I was first coming out in relationships, I didn't understand. I mean, I knew what monogamy was versus an open relationship. I knew what those things were. I didn't know how to participate in them as an adult.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was clumsily navigating my way through them. And eventually I came to the conclusion for myself, I did not want to be in a monogamous relationship. I wanted my relationships to be open. My first relationship and when I moved to San Francisco was with this guy named Rodney. And we were together for like 3 or 4 years. And it was open the entire time. It was not a healthy relationship. It started out healthy. We were very open in that we would tell each other everything. That was the basic rule. We made rules around this. If we did it, we had to tell, and things like you couldn't do it with the same person twice, blah 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 blah, all that stuff. When I broke up with him, I didn't have another real relationship until you. I mean, really committed relationship. And I went through a lot of dating of sometimes monogamous, sometimes not. And I mean, there were a lot of other factors. There was, drugs, alcohol, all that stuff was going on during all that time too. And I was getting involved with a lot of people who had drug problems. And so when I met you, and I had made this commitment to this child that I had adopted, I had made the commitment in my head that I will, if I get into another relationship, it is going to be about me, my child, and my partner. Those will be that will be my foundation. That will be my focus. And I will stop allowing these other influences to come in that override my thinking. Because in a way, I think, the sex itself is an addiction, right? It can be
Mm-hmm.
always looking for that validation.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't want that anymore. And I knew I didn't, when you came along, I knew that I had already come to that conclusion that I did not want that anymore.
Mm-hmm.
It never worked for me. And I finally was able to admit that to myself.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and, and to also come to the point where not judging someone else for how they want to have a relationship. That's just what I decided. I had to decide what works for me and how I want to move forward in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, that was my little rant about that.
No, I didn't hear it as a rant. And that part, you have been clear about. I heard all that, so maybe I inferred from that more than anything else in terms of what that meant for us. Don't
That's
know.
where I locked you in for the next 20 years.
Well, there's more. brother. So there's another side to this too that I was trying to dance around, and that's why I was choosing my words so carefully, because it feels a little exposed, but in so saying, but it's the to be maybe more specific. There is an inferiority, uh, a sense of maybe not being enough that I took away from some prior
Mm.
relationships. That, yeah, he's great at making money and making sure everything is done right the first time, kind of thing. I'm a good doer. I'm a good list creator and checker off of list. But when it comes to, uh, the intimacy, the quote unquote fun, that I need to look elsewhere. And that feeling gets triggered in me to this day more easily than I would like to admit.
That you're not fun? Is that what
That
you
I'm
mean?
not
That
enough. Yeah.
oh,
And so that was very, very close to the surface for a good chunk of my 30s and early 40s.
mm,
Coming out later in life and already feeling a little bit like I had missed, to air quote, missed the quote the fun youth period. I was instead raising a family. Then not entirely sure if I was up to the task of being well, we've talked about, the A gaze, and we kind of joke about it now, but certainly there was a time when there was a compare and despair
oh
phase
yeah.
for me.
I think
And
we all go through that.
yeah, I think so. And I was a very harsh judge of myself, and the not being able to tick every box for a person, them needing to look elsewhere.
Mm.
Just that was a huge uh-oh. Here's proof that you're in over your head. You're not quite up to. You're not quite enough. Yeah.
Hmm. Oh, I get that. I mean,
Yep.
I absolutely. Except I took that even further because I would get involved with men who were broken, and if I could fix them, they
Hmm.
would love me, and everything would be better because I came in and fixed the world. So then I was lovable. They would love me, and we'll live happily ever after.
Mhm.
Of course, that never worked. It always went in the opposite direction. But yeah, I totally get that.
Yep.
We do a lot of damage to ourselves in that desire to be um, liked or wanted.
Hmm.
Um,
Yep. Completely agree. And so, in that sense, uh, the our coming together when we did, after the experiences we each had, uh, really, I think, provided. I don't want to say the perfect. That sounds, very trite. But provided a great base for both of us to have enough of awareness that we could kind of both kind of move toward something that felt more honest for us individually. Just, and by
mhm,
honest I don't mean as opposed to not honest, but honest in terms of what we really wanted and were willing to just, go to the mat for. And that happened to we happened to be kind of headed in somewhat the same direction, so it worked.
it kind of worked out. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, kind of
Yeah.
worked out.
Yeah.
Here we are,
Yeah.
being interviewed on a podcast.
Yep. Yep. Different rooms. Here we are. Yep.
where where do you want to go from here as far as you and your life, career, Do you see us staying in Palm Springs forever? Is that something that you can, if you look out, that you see it?
Yeah. Other questions? Um,
Dun, dun. And
yeah.
thank you for joining our.
So, how to answer that?
Well, I know that you're working on, coaching
Right.
and.
Right. I see that as being a big deal for me.
Mhm.
Truly, I mean that does get me excited. Trying to figure out how to work coaching and financial counseling, if not combined, at least dual tracked, and make a private practice out of that works for clients and just helps people move more in the direction that they themselves are having a hard time doing, moving on their own. That really excites me, and it gives me a lot of energy when I'm learning new things, which has always been a thing. So that part absolutely will continue to go, and we need it to, right? We need to keep on working,
Mhm.
and I see it as a really an opportunity to do some kind of really cool stuff here in Palm Springs because it is such a large gay queer community. Um, I think that's a huge opportunity for me. Um,
I think per capita, it's the largest gay community in the country.
yeah, certainly the largest in California, but I
Yeah.
think it could. Yeah, I think it could be. I think you're right. And even it's plenty big enough, even if it's not number one, right?
Right. Yeah.
And uh,
Well, I mean, Southern California is really,
right.
it's all so close to each other that.
Right. I think the horrible political environment that we are finding all of ourselves in right now can become an opportunity to actually make a mark, have an impact even more quickly than maybe otherwise.
Mhm.
So, not that I wish any of this were going on, but I do think now's a great time to really step into my kind of what I think I really have in terms of capacity and capability. As to Palm Springs, I don't know. You, you and I think we like it here a lot. I think we're frustrated that we can't live in a way that we would like to right now.
Well, and we're also trying to launch businesses.
Right.
We're
So
we're still. I mean,
we got
I
a
think
lot of
that's.
stuff going on.
Yeah, and I think that's actually one of the cool things about us is that actually I'm going to make it about you. It's one of the things that I absolutely admire about you is that you are constantly bettering yourself. You're always working, reading, figuring out the kind of person you want to be, and it's I think it's really cool that you do that, and it rubs off on me because you sort of like, and push is not the right word, but you um, open my eyes up to these things as well. I'm not as much of a reader as you are, but I do see how these things help you and help you improve yourself,
Mm-hmm.
make yourself more happy, content, and I don't know. I find it very. I admire it,
Yeah. Well,
and
thank you.
you're welcome. Um, and Palm Springs, like that I never wanted to,
Mm-hmm.
but just but and here we are. And as soon as we were here, I thought, oh, this is much different than I thought, and I still feel that way. And do I see us here in 10 years? I don't know. We have a track record of moving every 7 years.
I do not see us here. Let me answer it that way. I feel very comfortable here. Uh,
Yeah, me too.
yeah.
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 And I love it for that reason. Like it's just no matter where we are, it feels like home. It feels like the home that Portland didn't feel,
Mm-hmm.
that We wanted Paso to feel, but didn't.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it feels like what I always used to refer to San Francisco always felt like home. Like
Yeah.
every time I was there, I just like, this is the right place to be.
Yeah.
Palm
I,
Springs feels that way. And I don't know why it feels that way, but it just does.
mm-hmm.
And so if we are still here in 10 years, great. If we're, go on another adventure, great. We'll figure that out.
Yeah. I'm very. I could see myself being here, sure, for sure. I mean, this to me is the closest I've gotten to a place that feels really comfortable since Silver Lake, as you know,
Mm, yeah.
which I still long for a little bit. But
Yeah, I understand that. Yeah.
yeah, um, but I could see us aging here, no problem,
Well,
absolutely. And the one concern I have is out of our control, and that is I do get concerned that it's just going to be too freaking hot if climate change continues, and
yeah.
uh, that that would be that would make us move. If the 3 months of unbearable turn into five, at some point you got to say, huh,
Is it worth it?
yeah,
Well,
mhm,
especially power bills here are
right,
ridiculous. And
exactly,
um and if you have those for 5 months instead of 3 or 6 months, then it's
right,
not worth it. Yeah.
yeah.
Is there anything else that you would like to talk about before we
Hey, this is
before
your
I
nickel,
hang up the phone
man.
on you?
No, no, this is weirdly fun.
Well,
So
good.
we'll have to maybe every now and then just set up the equipment and have this chat from
This will
different
be our
points.
therapy, our couples therapy.
See how it goes. No, I'm excited about you continuing to explore this as a way to make meaning out of you. I think this could be a great way for you to just express yourself and create value for the community. So I think it'll be really interesting to see where you go with this.
Well, I do really enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
I think that there's a lot to learn, which I am excited about that.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
And I yeah, there's a lot involved with the podcasting that I really enjoy, and it's really different from what I've always done before.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
There has always, in my mind, been a creative drive in you that when I see it, I don't understand how it turns on and how it turns off exactly, but when it's on, it's obvious.
mm,
You just are a different person when you have that.
when I'm
Uh,
excited about something that I'm into.
yes, but more than that, you're making something new. Truly, it's a, for lack of a better word, it is just the creative drive. When it's in the on position, it is obvious.
Hmm.
Um,
You
and
should point it out the next time you see it.
it's
No pressure.
it's on now.
Oh.
Yeah, yeah. So absolutely, I'll let you know. Actually, more to the point, when it's in off, it's also quite obvious.
Mm.
So, yeah.
It's quite obvious to me too when it's off. When it's
Okay.
on, I don't know if it's obvious to me.
Hmm.
Yeah, I have a lot of insecurities around my creativity anyway. And I think that I try to minimize when it's good. And it's funny because I can look back at stuff that I did and I can be like, wow, oh my God, that was good.
Hmm.
But in the moment, um, it's really difficult for me.
What do you think would make it easier for you to notice when it's in the on position?
That's a really good question because I'm not sure yet. I what I need to recognize is the feedback, because
Huh.
when people give me feedback in the moment with the graphic design work I've done, no matter what, positive or negative, I take it as negative. Do you, if that makes sense? I
Mhm.
am like, even if it's good feedback, I'm like, it's not good enough.
Mhm. Mhm.
Or you're just telling me that because for whatever reason, I'll make up a reason in my head.
Mhm.
I'm very good at convincing myself that I'm not good enough.
Mhm.
But with this, yeah, there are moments when I'm like, oh, that's, but it's almost like with this, I can recognize the good moments, and I don't feel as much of a need for outside validation.
Mhm.
Um, because, and maybe this is similar to when, around when we first met and when I adopted Leo, I just came to a point where I thought, I'm going to do something that I want to do, that I want to do, and good or bad, I want to figure out what it takes to make it happen
Mhm.
and see what will happen. You know, when I got to that point before, when I said that I wanted to have a child, I had made a decision. No more bad relationships. No more um, putting someone else before me. And when I have this child will come first.
Mhm.
And in a way, that's kind of how I'm approaching this. I know that there's something there, and I want to find out what it is, if that makes sense.
Mhm. Yeah, I'm noticing the change in tone of voice and energy even as you're talking about it.
Yeah.
So,
And I know that there are areas that I need to work on. And that's a thing too where I can see them. I think, okay, like, we were talking earlier when this episode first started and I was stumbling over the questions. And you had said, well, it's kind of an art, you have to get into that knowing how to ask them. And I take that as like, yeah, okay, that's what I need to figure out. I need to figure out how to get into that mode of not tripping up when I'm having a conversation with someone in this manner, because I don't trip up when I'm having a conversation with a friend at a coffee shop.
right. And that
And
was part of the premise of this podcast.
right, exactly.
Is, not was. Yeah.
Yeah. And
And
that's what I want to do. I want it to be that real,
mhm.
and that so that when, even if there is a trip up, I read this thing, maybe you said, no, I read it or saw a video of it somewhere. So anyway, somebody said, just, let your guests know that treat this as if it's live
Mhm.
and it's being streamed out to the world. So if there are any fuck ups, just move on, just keep going,
Mhm.
because it's already out there.
Mhm.
And that's my approach to this now. Even if I start out slow and I stumble along the way, eventually it will smooth itself out.
Mhm.
But this isn't about me. This is, you're the guest. This is about you.
Yeah.
But what do you think about me?
And on that note,
Well, thank you for taking the time to help me with this first episode today.
yeah, it was my pleasure, and happy to be back anytime.
Thanks for spending some time with me and my husband, Derek, from two different rooms, talking through 20 years of love, parenting, and figuring it out as we go. From that first moment at the gym to everything we've built together since, I am deeply grateful for the love Derek and I share, and that we got to share a piece of our story with you. If something in this conversation made you smile, made you think, or just made you feel a little less alone, send it to a friend. It might just be what they need to hear. I'd love to hear from you too. Send an email or voice memo to davidbigor@aol.com or find me on Blue Sky and Substack @davidbigor. If you have a moment, leave a review wherever you listen to your podcasts. It really helps. Until next time, be bold, be free, be you. And remember, sometimes love starts with a compliment and sticks around for a lifetime. See you next week.